Chapter 1 of the Book of Matthew. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. The Book of Matthew from the Darby Bible. Translated by John Nelson Darby. Chapter 1. Book of the generation of Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judas and his brethren. And Judas begot Phares, and Zara of Thamar, and Phares begot Ezram, and Ezram begot Aram, and Aram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Naasson, and Naasson begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Booz of Rachab, and Booz begot Obed of Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David the king, and David the king begot Solomon of her that had been the wife of Urias, and Solomon begot Roboam, and Roboam begot Abiah, and Abiah begot Asa, and Asa begot Josaphat, and Josaphat begot Joram, and Joram begot Ozias, and Ozias begot Jotham, and Jotham begot Achaz, and Achaz begot Ezekias, and Ezekias begot Manasses, and Manasses begot Amon, and Amon begot Josias, and Josias begot Jeconias and his brethren at the time of the carrying away of Babylon. And after the carrying away of Babylon, Jeconias begot Salathiel, and Salathiel begot Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel begot Abuyad, and Abuyad begot Eliakim, and Eliakim begot Azor, and Azor begot Sadoc, and Sadoc begot Achim, and Achim begot Eliad, and Eliad begot Eleazar, and Eleazar begot Matham, and Matham begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. All the generations therefore from Abraham to David were 14 generations, and from David until the carrying away of Babylon 14 generations, and from the carrying away of Babylon unto the Christ 14 generations. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was thus. His mother Mary, that is, having been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together she was found to be with child of the Holy Ghost. But Joseph her husband, being a righteous man, and unwilling to expose her publicly, purposed to have put her away secretly. But while he pondered on these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, fear not to take to thee Mary thy wife, for that which is begotten in her is of the Holy Ghost. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now all this came to pass, that that might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, Behold, the virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is, being interpreted, God with us. But Joseph, having awoke up from his sleep, did as the angel of the Lord had ordered him, and took to him his wife, and knew her not until she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus. End of chapter 1. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 2 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 2. Now Jesus, having been born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, Magi from the east arrived at Jerusalem, saying, Where is the King of the Jews that has been born? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to do him homage. But Herod the king, having heard of it, was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And gathering together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ should be born. And they said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, land of Judah, art in no wise the least among the governors of Judah, for out of thee shall go forth a leader who shall shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod, having secretly called the Magi, inquired of them accurately the time of the star that was appearing. And having sent them to Bethlehem, said, Go, search out accurately concerning the little child, and when ye shall have found him, bring me back word, so that I also may come and do him homage. And they, having heard the king, went their way. And lo, the star which they had seen in the east went before them until it came and stood over where the little child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And having come into the house, they saw the little child with Mary his mother, and falling down did him homage. And having opened their treasures, they offered to him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being divinely instructed in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. Now they having departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appears in a dream to Joseph, saying, Arise, take to thee the little child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be there until I shall tell thee, for Herod will seek the little child to destroy it. And having arisen, he took to him the little child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt. And he was there until the death of Herod, that might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, seeing that he had been mocked by the Magi, was greatly enraged, and sent and slew all the boys which were in Bethlehem, and in all its borders, from 2 years and under, according to the time which he had accurately inquired from the Magi. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, A voice which has been heard in Ramah, wailing and weeping, and great lamentation, Rachel weeping her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. But Herod having died, behold, an angel of the Lord appears in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, take to thee the little child and its mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they who sought the life of the little child are dead. And he arose and took to him the little child and its mother, and came into the land of Israel. But having heard that Archelaus reigns over Judea instead of Herod his father, he was afraid to go there. And having been divinely instructed in a dream, he went away into the parts of Galilee, and came and dwelt in a town called Nazareth, so that that should be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, He shall be called a Nazarene. End of chapter 2. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 3 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 3. Now in those days comes John the Baptist, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and saying, Repent, for the kingdom of the heavens has drawn nigh. For this is he who has been spoken of by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. And John himself had his garment of camel's hair, and a leathern girdle about his loins, and his nourishment was locusts and wild honey. Then went out to him Jerusalem, and all Judea, and all the country round the Jordan, and were baptized by him in the Jordan, confessing their sins. But seeing many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his baptism, he said to them, offspring of vipers, who has forewarned you to flee from the coming wrath? Produce therefore fruit worthy of repentance, and do not think to say within yourselves, We have Abraham for our father. For I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise up children to Abraham. And already the axe is applied to the root of the trees. Every tree therefore not producing good fruit is cut down and cast into the fire. I indeed baptize you with water to repentance, but he that comes after me is mightier than I, whose sandals I am not fit to bear. He shall baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire, whose fan is in his hand, and he shall thoroughly purge his threshing floor, and shall gather his wheat into the garner, but the chaff he will burn with fire unquenchable. Then comes Jesus from Galilee to the Jordan to John, to be baptized of him. But John urgently forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me? But Jesus answering said to him, Suffer it now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Then he suffers him. And Jesus, having been baptized, went up straightway from the water, and lo, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending as a dove, and coming upon him. And behold, a voice out of the heavens, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I have found my delight. End of chapter 3. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 4 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 4. Then Jesus was carried up into the wilderness by the Spirit to be tempted of the devil. And having fasted 40 days and 40 nights, afterwards he hungered. And the tempter coming up to him said, If thou art Son of God, speak, that these stones may become loaves of bread. But he answering said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word which goes out through God's mouth. Then the devil takes him to the holy city, and sets him upon the edge of the temple, and says to him, If thou art Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give charge to his angels concerning thee, and they shall bear thee on their hands, lest in any wise thou strike thy foot against a stone. Jesus said to him, It is again written, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again the devil takes him to a very high mountain, and shows him all the kingdoms of the world, and their glory, and said to him, All these things will I give thee, if, falling down, thou wilt do me homage. Then says Jesus to him, Get thee away, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt do homage to the Lord thy God, and him alone shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaves him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. But having heard that John was delivered up, he departed into Galilee. And having left Nazareth, he went and dwelt at Capernaum, which is on the seaside in the borders of Zabulon and Nephthalim, that might be fulfilled which was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, Land of Zabulon and land of Nephthalim, way of the sea beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people sitting in darkness has seen a great light, and to those sitting in the country and shadow of death, to them has light sprung up. From that time began Jesus to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of the heavens has drawn nigh. And walking by the sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he says to them, Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they, having left their trawl nets, immediately followed him. And going on thence, he found other 2 brothers, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in the ship with Zebedee their father, mending their trawl nets. And he called them, and they, having left the ship and their father, immediately followed him. And Jesus went round the whole of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the glad tidings of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every sickness among the people. And his fame went out into the whole of Syria, and they brought to him all that were ill, suffering under various diseases and pains, and those possessed with demons, and lunatics, and paralytics, and he healed them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee, and Decapolis, and Jerusalem, and Judea, and beyond the Jordan. End of chapter 4. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 5 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 5. But seeing the crowds, he went up into the mountain, and having sat down, his disciples came to him. And having opened his mouth, he taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of the heavens. Blessed they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed they who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed the merciful, for they shall find mercy. Blessed the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed they who are persecuted on account of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of the heavens. Blessed are ye when they shall reproach and persecute you, and say every wicked word against you, lying, for my sake. Rejoice and exult, for your reward is great in the heavens. For thus have they persecuted the prophets which were before you. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have become insipid, wherewith shall it be salted? It is no longer fit for anything but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot by men. Ye are the light of the world. A city situated on the top of a mountain cannot be hid. Nor do men light a lamp and put it under the bushel, but upon the lampstand, and it shines for all who are in the house. Let your light thus shine before men, so that they may see your upright works, and glorify your Father who is in the heavens. Think not that I am come to make void the law or the prophets. I have not come to make void, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, until the heaven and the earth pass away, one iota or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all come to pass. Whosoever then shall do away with one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, shall be called least in the kingdom of the heavens. But whoever shall practice and teach them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of the heavens. For I say unto you, that unless your righteousness surpass that of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of the heavens. Ye have heard that it was said to the ancients, Thou shalt not kill. But whoever shall kill shall be subject to the judgment. But I say unto you, that every one that is lightly angry with his brother shall be subject to the judgment. But whoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be subject to be called before the Sanhedrin. But whoever shall say, Fool, shall be subject to the penalty of the hell of fire. If therefore thou shalt offer thy gift at the altar, and there shalt remember that thy brother has something against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and first go be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Make friends with thine adverse party quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest sometime the adverse party deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say to thee, thou shalt in no wise come out thence till thou hast paid the last farthing. Ye have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that every one who looks upon a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. But if thy right eye be a snare to thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members perish, and not thy whole body be cast into hell. And if thy right hand be a snare to thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members perish, and not thy whole body be cast into hell. It has been said too, whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a letter of divorce. But I say unto you, that whoever shall put away his wife, except for cause of fornication, makes her commit adultery. And whoever marries one that is put away commits adultery. Again ye have heard that it has been said to the ancients, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt render to the Lord what thou hast sworn. But I say unto you, do not swear at all, neither by the heaven, because it is the throne of God, nor by the earth, because it is the footstool of his feet, nor by Jerusalem, because it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your word be yea, yea, nay, nay. But what is more than these is from evil. Ye have heard that it has been said, Eye for eye, and tooth for tooth. But I say unto you, not to resist evil. But whoever shall strike thee on thy right cheek, turn to him also the other. And to him that would go to law with thee, and take thy coat, leave him thy cloak also. And whoever will compel thee to go 1 mile, go with him 2. To him that asks of thee, give, and from him that desires to borrow of thee, turn not away. Ye have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbour, and hate thine enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who insult you and persecute you, that ye may be the sons of your Father who is in the heavens. For he makes his sun rise on evil and good, and sends rain on just and unjust. For if ye should love those who love you, what reward have ye? Do not also the tax gatherers the same? And if ye should salute your brethren only, what do ye extraordinary? Do not also the Gentiles the same? Be ye therefore perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. End of chapter 5. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 6 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 6. Take heed not to do your alms before men to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward with your Father who is in the heavens. When therefore thou doest alms, sound not a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may have glory from men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand does, so that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father who sees in secret himself will render it to thee. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, so that they should appear to men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy chamber, and having shut thy door, pray to thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father who sees in secret will render it to thee. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as those who are of the nations, for they think they shall be heard through their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like them, for your Father knows of what things ye have need before ye beg anything of him. Thus therefore pray ye, Our Father who art in the heavens, let thy name be sanctified, let thy kingdom come, let thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us today our needed bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but save us from evil. For if ye forgive men their offences, your heavenly Father will forgive you also. But if ye do not forgive men their offences, neither will your Father forgive your offences. And when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites, downcast in countenance, for they disfigure their faces, so that they may appear fasting to men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when fasting, anoint thy head, and wash thy face, so that thou mayest not appear fasting unto men, but to thy Father who is in secret. And thy Father who sees in secret shall render it to thee. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust spoils, and where thieves dig through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust spoils, and where thieves do not dig through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will be also your heart. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body will be light. But if thine eye be wicked, thy whole body will be dark. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great the darkness! No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and will love the other, or he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. For this cause I say unto you, do not be careful about your life, what ye should eat and what ye should drink, nor for your body what ye should put on. Is not the life more than the food, and the body more than the raiment? Look at the birds of the heaven, that they sow not, nor reap, nor gather into granaries, and your heavenly Father nourishes them. Are ye not much more excellent than they? But which of you by carefulness can add to his growth 1 cubit? And why are ye careful about clothing? Observe with attention the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. But I say unto you, that not even Solomon in all his glory was clothed as one of these. But if God so clothe the herbage of the field, which is today, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, will he not much rather you, O ye of little faith? Be not therefore careful, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we put on? For all these things the nations seek after. For your heavenly Father knows that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Be not careful therefore for the morrow, for the morrow shall be careful about its own things. Sufficient to the day is its own evil. End of chapter 6. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 7 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 7. Judge not that ye may not be judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you. But why lookest thou on the mote that is in the eye of thy brother, but observest not the beam that is in thine eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, suffer that I cast out the mote from thine eye, and behold the beam is in thine eye? Hypocrite, cast out first the beam out of thine eye, and then thou wilt see clearly to cast out the mote out of the eye of thy brother. Give not that which is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before the pigs, lest they trample them with their feet, and turning round rend you. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. For every one that asks receives, and he that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you who, if his son shall ask of him a loaf of bread, will give him a stone? And if he ask a fish, will give him a serpent? If therefore ye, being wicked, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much rather shall your Father, who is in the heavens, give good things to them that ask of him? Therefore all things whatever ye desire that men should do to you, thus do ye also do to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter in through the narrow gate, for wide the gate and broad the way that leads to destruction, and many are they who enter in through it. For narrow the gate and straiten the way that leads to life, and they are few who find it. But beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but within are ravening wolves. By their fruits ye shall know them. Do men gather a bunch of grapes from thorns, or from thistles figs? So every good tree produces good fruits, but the worthless tree produces bad fruits. A good tree cannot produce bad fruits, nor a worthless tree produce good fruits. Every tree not producing good fruit is cut down and cast into the fire. By their fruits then surely ye shall know them. Not every one who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of the heavens, but he that does the will of my Father who is in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied through thy name, and through thy name cast out demons, and through thy name done many works of power? And then will I avow unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, workers of lawlessness. Whoever therefore hears these words and does them, I will liken him to a prudent man, who built his house upon the rock. And the rain came down, and the streams came, and the winds blew, and fell upon that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded upon the rock. And every one who hears these my words, and does not do them, he shall be likened to a foolish man, who built his house upon the sand. And the rain came down, and the streams came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and its fall was great. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these words, the crowds were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as having authority, and not as the scribes. End of chapter 7. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 8 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 8. And when he had come down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And behold, a leper came, and did homage to him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou art able to cleanse me. And Jesus stretched out his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be cleansed. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus saith to him, See thou tell no man, but go, show yourself to the priests, and offer the gift which Moses enjoined, for a witness to them. And when he had entered into Capernaum, a centurion came to him, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lies paralytic in the house, suffering grievously. And Jesus saith to him, I will come and heal him. And the centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not fit that thou shouldest enter under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say to this one, Go, and he goes, and to another, Come, and he comes, and to my bondsman, Do this, and he does it. And when Jesus heard it, he wondered, and said to those who followed, Verily I say unto you, not even in Israel have I found such faith. But I say unto you, that many shall come from the rising and setting sun, and shall lie down at table with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of the heavens. But the sons of the kingdom shall be cast out into the outer darkness. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said to the centurion, Go, and as thou hast believed, be it to thee. And his servant was healed in that hour. And when Jesus had come to Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law laid down and in a fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and served him. And when the evening was come, they brought to him many possessed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all that were ill, so that that might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, saying, Himself took our infirmities and bore our diseases. And Jesus, seeing great crowds around him, commanded to depart to the other side. And a scribe came up and said to him, Teacher, I will follow thee whithersoever thou mayest go. And Jesus saith to him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the heaven roosting places, but the Son of Man has not where he may lay his head. But another of his disciples said to him, Lord, suffer me first to go away and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me, and leave the dead to bury their own dead. And he went on board ship, and his disciples followed him. And behold, the water became very agitated on the sea, so that the ship was covered by the waves, but he slept. And the disciples came and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith to them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then, having arisen, he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men were astonished, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? And there met him, when he came to the other side, to the country of the Gergesenes, two possessed by demons, coming out of the tombs, exceeding dangerous, so that no one was able to pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, Son of God? Hast thou come here before the time to torment us? Now there was a great way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. And the demons besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said to them, Go. And they, going out, departed into the herd of swine. And lo, the whole herd of swine rushed down the deep slope into the sea, and died in the waters. But they that fed them fled, and went away into the city, and related everything and what had happened as to those possessed by demons. And behold, the whole city went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to go away out of their coasts. End of chapter 8. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 9 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 9. And going on board the ship, he passed over and came to his own city. And lo, they brought to him a paralytic laid upon a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said to the paralytic, Be of good courage, child, thy sins are forgiven. And behold, certain of the scribes said in themselves, This man blasphemes. And Jesus, seeing their thoughts, said, Why do ye think evil things in your hearts? For which is easier, to say, Thy sins are forgiven thee, or to say, Rise up and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins. Then he saith to the paralytic, Rise up, take thy bed, and go into thy house. And he rose up and went to his house. But the crowd, seeing it, were in fear, and glorified God who gave such power to men. And Jesus, passing on thence, saw a man sitting at the tax office, called Matthew, and saith to him, Follow me. And he rose up and followed him. And it came to pass, as he lay at table in the house, that behold, many tax gatherers and sinners came and lay at table with Jesus and his disciples. And the Pharisees, seeing it, said to his disciples, Why does your teacher eat with tax gatherers and sinners? But Jesus, hearing it, said to them, They that are strong have not need of a physician, but those that are ill. But go and learn what that is. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. For I have not come to call righteous men, but sinners. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees often fast, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said to them, Can the children of the bridechamber mourn so long as the bridegroom is with them? But days will come when the bridegroom will have been taken away from them, and then they will fast. But no one puts a patch of new cloth on an old garment, for its filling up takes from the garment, and a worse rent takes place. Nor do men put new wine into old skins, otherwise the skins burst, and the wine is poured out, and the skins will be destroyed. But they put new wine into new skins, and both are preserved together. As he spoke these things to them, behold, a ruler came and did homage to him, saying, My daughter has by this died, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus rose up and followed him and his disciples. And behold, a woman who had had a bloody flux for 12 years came behind and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I should only touch his garment, I shall be healed. But Jesus, turning and seeing her, said, Be of good courage, daughter, thy faith has healed thee. And the woman was healed from that hour. And when Jesus was come to the house of the ruler, and saw the flute players and the crowd making a tumult, he said to them, Withdraw, for the damsel is not dead, but sleeps. And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put out, he went in and took her hand, and the damsel rose up, and the fame of it went out into all that land. And as Jesus passed on thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Have mercy on us, Son of David. And when he was come to the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus saith to them, Do ye believe that I am able to do this? They say to him, Yea, Lord. Then he touched their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus charged them sharply, saying, See, let no man know it. But they, when they were gone out, spread his name abroad in all that land. But as they were going out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed by a demon. And the demon having been cast out, the dumb spake. And the crowds were astonished, saying, It was never thus seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, He casts out the demons through the prince of the demons. And Jesus went round all the cities and the villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the glad tidings of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness. But when he saw the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were harassed and cast away as sheep not having a shepherd. Then saith he to his disciples, The harvest is great, and the workmen are few. Supplicate therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he send forth workmen unto his harvest. End of chapter 9. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 10 of the book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 10. And having called to him his 12 disciples, he gave them power over unclean spirits, so that they should cast them out, and heal every disease and every bodily weakness. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the tax gatherer, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, who is surnamed Thaddeus, Simon the Canaan, and Judas the Iscariot, who also delivered him up. These 12 sent Jesus out when he had charged them, saying, Go not off into the way of the Gentiles, and into a city of Samaritans. Enter ye not, but go ye rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of the heavens has drawn nigh. Heal the infirm, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. Ye have received gratuitously, give gratuitously. Do not provide yourselves with gold, or silver, or brass, for your belts, nor scrip for the way, nor 2 vests, nor sandals, nor a staff, for the workman is worthy of his nourishment. But into whatever city or village ye enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there remain till ye go forth. But when ye go into a house, salute it. And if the house indeed be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor shall hear your words as ye go forth out of that house or that city, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in judgment day than for that city. Behold, I send you as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore prudent as the serpents and guileless as the doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to Sanhedrins, and scourge you in their synagogues. And ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony to them and to the nations. But when they deliver you up, be not careful how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given to you in that hour what ye shall speak. For ye are not the speakers, but the Spirit of your Father which speaks in you. But brother shall deliver up brother to death, and father child. And children shall rise up against parents, and shall put them to death. And ye shall be hated of all on account of my name. But he that has endured to the end, he shall be saved. But when they persecute you in this city, flee to the other. For verily I say to you, ye will not have completed the cities of Israel until the Son of Man be come. The disciple is not above his teacher, nor the bondsman above his Lord. It is sufficient for the disciple that he should become as his teacher, and the bondsman as his Lord. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more those of his household? Fear them not therefore. For there is nothing covered which shall not be revealed, and secret which shall not be known. What I say to you in darkness, speak in the light. What ye hear in the ear, preach upon the houses. And be not afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but fear rather him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing? And one of them shall not fall to the ground without your Father. But of you, even the hairs of the head are all numbered. Fear not therefore, ye are better than many sparrows. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, I will also confess him before my Father which is in the heavens. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father who is in the heavens. Do not think that I have come to send peace upon the earth. I have not come to send peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man at variance with his father, and the daughter with her mother, and the daughter-in-law with her mother-in-law. And they of his household shall be a man's enemies. He who loves father or mother above me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter above me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He that finds his life shall lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake shall find it. He that receives you receives me, and he that receives me receives him that sent me. He that receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give to drink to one of those little ones a cup of cold water only, in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose its reward. End of chapter 10. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 11 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 11. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and preach in their cities. But John, having heard in the prison the works of the Christ, sent by his disciples, and said to him, Art thou the coming one, or are we to wait for another? And Jesus answering said to them, Go, report to John what ye hear and see. Blind men see, and lame walk, lepers are cleansed, and deaf hear, and dead are raised, and poor have glad tidings preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. But as they went away, Jesus began to say to the crowds concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed moved about by the wind? But what went ye out to see? A man clothed in delicate raiment? Behold, those who wear delicate things are in the houses of kings. But what went ye out to see? A prophet? Yea, I say to you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, who shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say to you, that there is not arisen among the born of women a greater than John the Baptist, but the little one in the kingdom of the heavens is greater than he. But from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of the heavens is taken by violence, and the violent seize on it. For all the prophets and the law have prophesied unto John. And if ye will receive it, this is Elias who is to come. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. But to whom shall I liken this generation? It is like children sitting in the markets, and calling to their companions, and saying, We have piped to you, and ye have not danced. We have sung dirges to you, and ye have not wailed. For John has come neither eating nor drinking, and they say, He has a demon. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man that is eating and wine drinking, a friend of tax gatherers and sinners, and wisdom has been justified by her children. Then began he to reproach the cities in which most of his works of power had taken place, because they had not repented. Woe to thee, Chorazin! Woe to thee, Bethsaida! For if the works of power which have taken place in thee had taken place in Tyre and Sidon, they had long ago repented in sackcloth and ashes. But I say to you, that it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in judgment day than for you. And thou, Capernaum, who hast been lifted up even to heaven, shalt be brought down even to Hades. For if the works of power which have taken place in thee had taken place in Sodom, it had remained until this day. But I say to you, that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in judgment day than for thee. At that time Jesus answering said, I praise thee, bearing witness to thee, O Father, Lord of the heaven and the earth, that thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them to babes. Yea, O Father, for thus has it been well pleasing in thy sight. All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son but the Father, nor does any one know the Father but the Son, and he to whom the Son may be pleased to reveal him. Come to me, all ye who labor and are burthened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest to your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. End of chapter 11. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 12 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 12. At that time Jesus went on the Sabbath through the cornfields, and his disciples were hungry, and began to pluck the ears and to eat. But the Pharisees, seeing it, said to him, Behold, thy disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath. But he said to them, Have ye not read what David did when he was hungry, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God and ate the shew loaves, when it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priests only? Or have ye not read in the law that on the Sabbaths the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, and are blameless? But I say unto you, that there is here a greater thing than the temple. But if ye had known what is, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. And going away from thence, he came into their synagogue. And behold, there was a man having his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? That they might accuse him. But he said to them, What man shall there be of you who has one sheep, and if this fall into a pit on the Sabbath, will not lay hold of it and raise it up? How much better then is a man than a sheep? So that it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath. Then he says to the man, Stretch out thy hand. And he stretched it out, and it was restored, sound as the other. But the Pharisees, having gone out, took counsel against him, how they might destroy him. But Jesus, knowing it, withdrew thence, and great crowds followed him, and he healed them all, and charged it on them that they should not make him publicly known, that might be fulfilled that was spoken by the prophet Esaias, saying, Behold, my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul has found its delight. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall shew forth judgment to the nations. He shall not strive nor cry out, nor shall anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed shall he not break, and smoking flax shall he not quench, until he bring forth judgment unto victory, and on his name shall the nations hope. Then was brought to him one possessed by a demon, blind and dumb, and he healed him, so that the blind and dumb man both spake and saw. And all the crowds were amazed, and said, Is this man the son of David? But the Pharisees, having heard it, said, This man does not cast out demons, but by Beelzebub, prince of demons. But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said to them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand. And if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, your sons, by whom do they cast them out? For this reason they shall be your judges. But if I by the Spirit of God cast out demons, then indeed the kingdom of God is come upon you. Or how can any one enter into the house of the strong man and plunder his goods, unless first he bind the strong man? And then he will plunder his house. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathers not with me scatters. For this reason I say unto you, every sin and injurious speaking shall be forgiven to men, but speaking injuriously of the Spirit shall not be forgiven to men. And whosoever shall have spoken a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whosoever shall speak against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this age nor in the coming one. Either make the tree good, and its fruit good, or make the tree corrupt, and its fruit corrupt. But from the fruit the tree is known. Offspring of vipers, how can ye speak good things, being wicked? For of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good man out of the good treasure brings forth good things, And the wicked man out of the wicked treasure brings forth wicked things. But I say unto you, that every idle word whatsoever men shall say, they shall render an account of it in judgment day. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Then answered some of the scribes and Pharisees, saying, Teacher, we desire to see a sign from thee. But he, answering, said to them, A wicked and adulterous generation seeks a sign, and a sign shall not be given to it, save the sign of Jonas the prophet. For even as Jonas was in the belly of the great fish 3 days and 3 nights, thus shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Ninevites shall rise up in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonas. And behold, more than Jonas is here. A queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, more than Solomon is here. But when the unclean spirit has gone out of the man, he goes through dry places, seeking rest, and does not find it. Then he says, I will return to my house whence I came out. And having come, he finds it unoccupied, swept and adorned. Then he goes and takes with himself 7 other spirits worse than himself, and entering in, they dwell there. And the last condition of that man becomes worse than the first. Thus shall it be to this wicked generation also. But while he was yet speaking to the crowds, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, seeking to speak to him. Then one said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren are standing without, seeking to speak to thee. But he answering said to him that spoke to him, Who is my mother, and who are my brethren? And stretching out his hand to his disciples, he said, Behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father who is in the heavens, he is my brother and sister and mother. End of chapter 12. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 13 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 13. And that same day Jesus went out from the house and sat down by the sea. And great crowds were gathered together to him, so that going on board ship himself he sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the shore. And he spoke to them many things in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some grains fell along the way, and the birds came and devoured them. And others fell upon the rocky places, where they had not much earth, and immediately they sprang up out of the ground, because of not having any depth of earth. But when the sun rose, they were burnt up, and because of not having any root were dried up. And others fell upon the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And others fell upon the good ground, and produced fruit, 1 100, 1 60, and 1 30. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came up and said to him, Why speakest thou to them in parables? And he answering said to them, Because to you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of the heavens, but to them it is not given. For whoever has, there shall be given to him, and he shall be caused to be in abundance. But he who has not, even what he has shall be taken away from him. For this cause I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear nor understand. And by them is filled up the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, Hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and beholding ye shall behold, and not see. For the heart of this people has grown fat, and they have heard heavily with their ears, and they have closed their eyes as asleep, lest they should see with the eyes, and hear with the ears, and understand with the heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see the things which ye behold, and did not see them, and to hear the things which ye hear, and did not hear them. Ye therefore hear the parable of the sower. From every one who hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the wicked one comes and catches away what was sown in his heart. This is he that is sown by the wayside. But he that is sown on the rocky place, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, but has no root in himself, but is for a time only. And when tribulation or persecution happens on account of the word, he is immediately offended. And he that is sown among thorns, this is he who hears the word, and the anxious cares of this life and the deceit of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he that is sown upon the good ground, this is he who hears and understands the word, who bears fruit also, and produces 100, and 160, and 130. And he set before them another parable, saying, The kingdom of the heavens has become like a man sowing good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed darnel amongst the wheat, and went away. But when the blade shot up and produced fruit, then appeared the darnel also. And the bondsman of the householder came to him and said, Sir, hast thou not sown good seed in thy field? Whence then has it the darnel? And he said to them, A man that is an enemy has done this. And the bondsman said to him, Wilt thou then that we should go and gather it up? But he said, No, lest in gathering the darnel ye should root up the wheat with it. Suffer both to grow together unto the harvest, and in the time of the harvest I will say to the harvestmen, Gather first the darnel, and bind it into bundles to burn it, but the wheat bring together into my granary. Another parable set he before them, saying, The kingdom of the heavens is like a grain of mustard, which a man took and sowed in his field, which is less indeed than all seeds, but when it is grown is greater than herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of heaven come and roost in its branches. He spoke another parable to them. The kingdom of the heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal until it had been all leavened. All these things Jesus spoke to the crowds in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them, so that that might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things hidden from the world's foundation. Then, having dismissed the crowds, he went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, Expound to us the parable of the darnel of the field. But he answering said to them, He that sows the good seed is the Son of Man, and the field is the world. And the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom, but the darnel are the sons of the evil one. And the enemy who has sowed it is the devil. And the harvest is the completion of the age, and the harvestmen are angels. As then the darnel is gathered, and is burned in the fire, thus it shall be in the completion of this age. The Son of Man shall send his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all offences, and those that practice lawlessness, and they shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous shall shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the The kingdom of the heaven is like a treasure hid in the field, which a man having found has hid, and for the joy of it goes and sells all whatever he has, and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of the heavens is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, and having found one pearl of great value, he went and sold all whatever he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of the heavens is like a seine which has been cast into the sea, and which has gathered together of every kind, which, when it has been filled, having drawn up on the shore and sat down, they gather the good into vessels and cast the worthless out. Thus shall it be in the completion of the age. The angels shall go forth and sever the wicked from the midst of the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. Jesus saith to them, Have ye understood all these things? They say to him, Yea, Lord. And he said to them, For this reason every scribe discipled to the kingdom of the heavens is like a man that is a householder, who brings out of his treasure things new and old. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these parables, he withdrew thence. And having come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished, and said, Whence has this man this wisdom and these works of power? Is not this the son of the carpenter? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brethren James, and Joses, and Simon, and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Whence then has this man all these things? And they were offended in him. And Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor, unless in his country and in his house. And he did not there many works of power, because of their unbelief. End of chapter 13. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 14 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 14. At that time Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus, and said to his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and because of this these works of power display their force in him. For Herod had laid hold on John, and had bound him and put him in prison on account of Herodias, the wife of Philip his brother. For John said to him, It is not lawful for thee to have her. And while desiring to kill him, he feared the crowd, because they held him for a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them, and pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised with oath to give her whatsoever she should ask. But she, being set on by her mother, says, Give me here upon a dish the head of John the Baptist. And the king was grieved. But on account of the oaths and those lying at table with him, he commanded it to be given. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. And his head was brought upon a dish, and was given to the damsel, and she carried it to her mother. And his disciples came and took the body and buried it, and came and brought word to Jesus. And Jesus, having heard it, withdrew thence by ship to a desert place apart. And the crowds, having heard of it, followed him on foot from the cities. And going out, he saw a great crowd, and was moved with compassion about them, and healed their infirm. But when even was come, his disciples came to him, saying, The place is desert, and much of the daytime already gone by. Dismiss the crowds, that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves. But Jesus said to them, They have no need to go. Give ye them to eat. But they say to him, We have not here save 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And he said, Bring them here to me. And having commanded the crowds to recline upon the grass, having taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed, and having broken the loaves, he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled, and they took up what was over and above of fragments, 12 handbaskets full. But those that had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. And immediately he compelled the disciples to go on board ship, and to go on before him to the other side, until he should have dismissed the crowds. And having dismissed the crowds, he went up into the mountain apart to pray. And when even was come, he was alone there, but the ship was already in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. But in the 4th watch of the night he went off to them, walking on the sea. And the disciples, seeing him walking on the sea, were troubled, saying, It is an apparition. And they cried out through fear. But Jesus immediately spoke to them, saying, Take courage, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answering him said, Lord, if it be thou, command me to come to thee upon the waters. And he said, Come. And Peter, having descended from the ship, walked upon the waters to go to Jesus. But seeing the wind strong, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught hold of him, and said to him, O thou of little faith, why didst thou doubt? And when they had gone up into the ship, the wind fell. But those in the ship came and did homage to him, saying, Truly thou art God's Son. And having crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent to that whole country around, and they brought to him all that were ill, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made thoroughly well. End of chapter 14. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 15 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 15. Then the scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem come up to Jesus, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress what has been delivered by the ancients? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. But he answering said to them, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of God on account of your traditional teaching? For God commanded, saying, Honor father and mother, and he that speaks ill of father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, Whosoever shall say to his father or mother, It is a gift, whatsoever it be, by which received from me, thou wouldest be profited. And he shall in no wise honor his father or his mother, and ye have made void the commandment of God on account of your traditional teaching. Hypocrites! Well has Isaiah prophesied about you, saying, This people honors me with the lips, but their heart is far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as teachings commandments of men. And having called to him the crowd, he said to them, Hear and understand. Not what enters into the mouth defiles the man, but what goes forth out of the mouth, this defiles the man. Then his disciples, coming to him, said to him, Dost thou know that the Pharisees, having heard this word, have been offended? But he, answering, said, Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted shall be rooted up. Leave them alone, they are blind leaders of blind. But if blind lead blind, both will fall into a ditch. And Peter answering said to him, Expound to us this parable. But he said, Are ye also still without intelligence? Do ye not yet apprehend that everything that enters into the mouth finds its way into the belly, and is cast forth into the draught? But those things which go forth out of the mouth come out of the heart, and those defile man. For out of the heart come forth evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnessings, blasphemies. These are the things which defile man. But the eating with unwashen hands does not defile the man. And Jesus, going forth from thence, withdrew into the parts of Tyre and Sidon. And lo, a Canaanitish woman coming out from those borders cried to him, saying, Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is miserably possessed by a devil. But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came to him and asked him, saying, Dismiss her, for she cries after us. But he answering said, I have not been sent save to the lost sheep of Israel's house. But she came and did him homage, saying, Lord, help me. But he answering said, It is not well to take the bread of the children and cast it to the dogs. But she said, Yea, Lord, for even the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from the table of their masters. Then Jesus answering said to her, O woman, thy faith is great. Be it to thee as thou desirest. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. And Jesus, leaving that, came towards the sea of Galilee. And he went up into the mountain, and sat down there. And great crowds came to him, having with them lame, blind, dumb, crippled, and many others, and they cast them at his feet, and he healed them. So that the crowds wondered, seeing dumb speaking, crippled sound, lame walking, and blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. But Jesus, having called his disciples to him, said, I am moved with compassion as to the crowd, because they remain with me now already 3 days, and they have not anything which they can eat. And I would not send them away fasting, lest they should faint on the way. And his disciples say to him, Whence should we have so many loaves in the wilderness as to fill so great a crowd? And Jesus says to them, How many loaves have ye? But they said, 7, and a few small fishes. And he commanded the crowds to lie down on the ground. And having taken the 7 loaves and the fishes, having given thanks, he brake them and gave them to his disciples, and the disciples to the crowd. And all ate and were filled. And they took up what was over and above of the fragments, 7 baskets full. But they that ate were 4,000 men, without women and children. And having dismissed the crowds, he went on board ship, and came to the borders of Magada. End of chapter 15. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 16 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 16. And the Pharisees and Sadducees, coming to him, asked him, tempting him, to show them a sign out of heaven. But he answering said to them, When evening is come, ye say, Fine weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, a storm today, for the sky is red and lowering. Ye know how to discern the face of the sky, but ye cannot the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks a sign, and a sign shall not be given to it save the sign of Jonas. And he left them and went away. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take any loaves. And Jesus said to them, See and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, Because we have taken no loaves. And Jesus, knowing it, said, Why reason ye among yourselves, O ye of little faith, because ye have taken no loaves? Do ye not yet understand, nor remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many handbaskets ye took up? Nor the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets ye took up? How do ye not understand that it was not concerning bread I said to you, Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees? Then they comprehended that he did not speak of being beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees. But when Jesus was come into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he demanded of his disciples, saying, Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some John the Baptist, and others Elias, and others again Jeremias, or one of the prophets. He says to them, But ye, who do ye say that I am? And Simon Peter answering said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answering said to him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar Jonas, for flesh and blood has not revealed it to thee, but my Father who is in the heavens. And I also, I say unto thee, that thou art Peter, and on this rock I will build my assembly, and Hades' gates shall not prevail against it. And I will give to thee the keys of the kingdom of the heavens, and whatever thou mayest bind upon the earth shall be bound in the heavens, and whatsoever thou mayest loose on the earth shall be loosed in the heavens. Then he enjoined on his disciples that they should say to no man that he was the Christ. From that time Jesus began to shew himself to his disciples that he must go away to Jerusalem, and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and the 3rd day be raised. And Peter, taking him to him, began to rebuke him, saying, God, be favourable to thee, Lord. This shall in no wise be unto thee. But turning round, he said to Peter, Get away behind me, Satan. Thou art an offence to me, for thou savourest not the things of God, but the things of men. Then Jesus said to his disciples, If any one desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever shall desire to save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what does a man profit if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is about to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will render to each according to his doings. Verily I say unto you, there are some of those standing here who shall not taste of death at all, until they shall have seen the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. End of chapter 16. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 17 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 17. And after 6 days Jesus takes Peter and James and John his brother with him, and brings them up into a high mountain apart. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone as the sun, and his garments became white as the light. And lo, Moses and Elias appeared to them, talking with him. And Peter answering said to Jesus, Lord, it is good we should be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, for thee one, and for Moses one, and one for Elias. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and lo, a voice out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I have found my delight. Hear him. And the disciples, hearing it, fell upon their faces, and were greatly terrified. And Jesus, coming to them, touched them, and said, Rise up, and be not terrified. And lifting up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus alone. And as they descended from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no one, until the Son of Man be risen up from among the dead. And his disciples demanded of him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? And he answering said to them, Elias indeed comes first, and will restore all things. But I say unto you, that Elias has already come, and they have not known him, but have done unto him whatever they would. Thus also the Son of Man is about to suffer from them. Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of John the Baptist. And when they came to the crowd, a man came to him, falling on his knees before him, and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic, and suffers sorely. For often he falls into the fire, and often into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they were not able to heal him. And Jesus answering said, O unbelieving and perverted generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked him, and the demon went out from him, and the boy was healed from that hour. Then the disciples, coming to Jesus apart, said to him, Why were not we able to cast him out? And Jesus said to them, Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say to this mountain, Be transported hence there, and it shall transport itself, and nothing shall be impossible to you. But this kind does not go out but by prayer and fasting. And while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said to them, The Son of Man is about to be delivered up into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised up. And they were greatly grieved. And when they came to Capernaum, those who received the didrachmas came to Peter and said, Does your teacher not pay the didrachma? He says, Yes. And when he came into the house, Jesus anticipated him, saying, What dost thou think, Simon? The kings of the earth, from whom do they receive custom or tribute? From their own sons or from strangers? Peter says to him, From strangers. Jesus said to him, Then are the sons free. But that we may not be an offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. And when thou hast opened its mouth, thou wilt find a stater. Take that and give it to them, for me and thee. End of chapter 17. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 18 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 18. In that hour the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Who then is greatest in the kingdom of the heavens? And Jesus, having called a little child to him, set it in their midst, and said, Verily I say to you, unless ye are converted and become as little children, ye will not at all enter into the kingdom of the heavens. Whoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of the heavens. And whosoever shall receive one such little child in my name receives me. But whosoever shall offend one of these little ones who believe in me, it were profitable for him that a great millstone had been hung upon his neck, and he sunk in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of offenses! For it must needs be that offenses come, yet woe to that man by whom the offense comes. And if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. It is good for thee to enter into life lame or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into eternal fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is good for thee to enter into life one-eyed, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into the Gehenna of fire. See that ye do not despise one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that their angels in the heavens continually behold the face of my Father who is in the heavens. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. What think ye? If a certain man should have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, does he not, leaving the 99 on the mountains, go and seek the one that has gone astray? And if it should come to pass that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoices more because of it than because of the 99 not gone astray. So it is not the will of your Father who is in the heavens that one of these little ones should perish. But if thy brother sin against thee, go, reprove him between thee and him alone. If he hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he do not hear thee, take with thee 1 or 2 besides, that every matter may stand upon the word of 2 witnesses or of 3. But if he will not listen to them, tell it to the assembly. And if also he will not listen to the assembly, let him be to thee as one of the nations, and a tax gatherer. Verily I say to you, whatsoever ye shall bind on the earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on the earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, that if 2 of you shall agree on the earth concerning any matter, whatsoever it may be that they shall ask, it shall come to them from my Father who is in the heavens. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together unto my name, there am I in the midst of them. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Until 7 times? Jesus saith to him, I say not to thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. For this cause the kingdom of the heavens has become like a king who would reckon with his bondsmen. And having begun to reckon, one debtor of 10,000 talents was brought to him. But he, not having anything to pay his lord, commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children, and everything that he had, and that payment should be made. The bondsman therefore, falling down, did him homage, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And the lord of that bondsman, being moved with compassion, loosed him and forgave him the loan. But that bondsman, having gone out, found one of his fellow bondsmen who owed him 100 denarii. And having seized him, he throttled him, saying, Pay me if thou owest anything. His fellow bondsman therefore, having fallen down at his feet, besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee. But he would not, but went away and cast him into prison, until he should pay what was owing. But his fellow bondsmen, having seen what had taken place, were greatly grieved, and went and recounted to their lord all that had taken place. Then his lord, having called him to him, says to him, Wicked bondsman, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou besoughtest me. Shouldest not thou also have compassion on thy fellow bondsman, as I also had compassion on thee? And his lord, being angry, delivered him to the tormentors, till he paid all that was owing to him. Thus also my heavenly Father shall do to you, if ye forgive not from your hearts every one his brother. End of chapter 18. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 19 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 19. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these words, he withdrew from Galilee, and came to the coast of Judea, beyond the Jordan. And great crowds followed him, and he healed them there. And the Pharisees came to him, tempting him, and saying, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? But he answering said to them, Have ye not read that he who made them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, On account of this a man shall leave father and mother, and shall be united to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh, so that they are no longer two, but one flesh? What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. They say to him, Why then did Moses command to give a letter of divorce, and to send her away? He says to them, Moses, in view of the hardness of your hearts, allowed you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not thus. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, not for fornication, and shall marry another, commits adultery. And he who marries one put away commits adultery. His disciples say to him, If the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. And he said to them, All cannot receive this word, but those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs which have been born thus from their mother's womb, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs of men, and there are eunuchs who have made eunuchs of themselves for the sake of the kingdom of the heavens. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Then there were brought to him little children, that he might lay his hands on them and pray. But the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, Suffer little children, and do not hinder them from coming to me, for the kingdom of the heavens is of such. And having laid his hands upon them, he departed thence. And lo, one coming up to him said to him, Teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have life eternal? And he said to him, What askest thou me concerning goodness? One is good. But if thou wouldest enter into life, keep the commandments. He says to him, Which? And Jesus said, Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The young man says to him, All these have I kept. What lack I yet? Jesus says to him, If thou wouldest be perfect, go, sell what thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me. But the young man, having heard the word, went away grieved, for he had great possessions. And Jesus said to his disciples, Verily I say unto you, a rich man shall with difficulty enter into the kingdom of the heavens. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. And when the disciples heard it, they were exceedingly astonished, saying, Who then can be saved? But Jesus, looking at them, said to them, With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Then Peter, answering, said to him, Behold, we have left all and followed thee. What then shall happen to us? And Jesus said to them, Verily I say unto you, that ye who have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit down upon his throne of glory, ye also shall sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And every one who has left houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit life eternal. But many first shall be last, and last first. End of chapter 19. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 20 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 20. For the kingdom of the heavens is like a householder who went out with the early morn to hire workmen for his vineyard. And having agreed with the workmen for a denarius the day, he sent them into his vineyard. And having gone out about the third hour, he saw others standing in the marketplace idle. And to them he said, Go also ye into my vineyard, and whatever may be just I will give you. And they went their way. And again, having gone out about the 6th and 9th hour, he did likewise. But about the 11th hour, having gone out, he found others standing, and says to them, Why stand ye here all the day idle? They say to him, Because no man has hired us. He says to them, Go also ye into the vineyard, and whatsoever may be just ye shall receive. But when the evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard says to his steward, Call the workmen, and pay them their wages, beginning from the last even to the first. And when they who came to work about the 11th hour came, they received each a denarius. And when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more, and they received also themselves each a denarius. And on receiving it, they murmured against the master of the house, saying, These last have worked 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the heat? But he answering said to one of them, My friend, I do not wrong thee. Didst thou not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is thine and go. But it is my will to give to this last, even as to thee. Is it not lawful for me to do what I will in my own affairs? Is thine eye evil because I am good? Thus shall the last be first, and the first last. For many are called ones, but few chosen ones. And Jesus, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples with him apart in the way, and said to them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death, and they will deliver him up to the nations to mock and to scourge and to crucify, and the third day he shall rise again. Then came to him the mother of the sons of Zebedee, with her sons, doing homage and asking something of him. And he said to her, What wilt thou? She says to him, Speak the word that these my 2 sons may sit, one on thy right hand, and one on thy left, in thy kingdom. And Jesus answering said, Ye know not what ye ask. Can ye drink the cup which I am about to drink? They say to him, We are able. And he saith to them, Ye shall drink indeed my cup, but to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but to those for whom it is prepared of my Father. And the 10, having heard of it, were indignant about the 2 brothers. But Jesus, having called them to him, said, Ye know that the rulers of the nations exercise lordship over them, and the great exercise authority over them. It shall not be thus amongst you, but whosoever would be the great among you, let him be your servant. And whosoever would be first among you, let him be your bondsman. As indeed the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. And as they went out from Jericho, a great crowd followed him. And lo, 2 blind men sitting by the wayside, having heard that Jesus was passing by, cried out, saying, Have mercy on us, Lord, Son of David. But the crowd rebuked them, that they might be silent. But they cried out the more, saying, Have mercy on us, Lord, Son of David. And Jesus, having stopped, called them and said, What will ye that I shall do to you? They say to him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. And Jesus, moved with compassion, touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes had sight restored to them, and they followed him. End of chapter 20. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 21 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 21. And when they drew near to Jerusalem, and came to Bethphage, at the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, Go into the village over against you, and immediately ye will find an ass tied and a colt with it. Loose them and lead them to me. And if any one say anything to you, ye shall say, The Lord has need of them, and straightway he will send them. But all this came to pass, that might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, Say to the daughter of Zion, Behold, thy king cometh to thee meek and mounted upon an ass, and a colt the foal of an ass. But the disciples, having gone and done as Jesus had ordered them, brought the ass and the colt, and put their garments upon them, and he sat on them. But a very great crowd strewed their own garments on the way, and others kept cutting down branches from the trees and strewing them on the way. And the crowds who went before and who followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed be he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And as he entered into Jerusalem, the whole city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the crowd said, This is Jesus, the prophet, who is from Nazareth of Galilee. And Jesus entered into the temple of God, and cast out all that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers, and the seats of those that sold the doves. And he says to them, It is written, My house shall be called a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of robbers. And blind and lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonders which he wrought, and the children crying in the temple, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant, and said to him, Hearest thou what these say? And Jesus saith to them, Yea. Have ye never read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings thou hast perfected praise? And leaving them, he went out of the city to Bethany, and there he passed the night. But early in the morning, as he came back into the city, he hungered. And seeing one fig tree in the way, he came to it, and found nothing on it but leaves only. And he saith to it, Let there be never more fruit of thee for ever. And the fig tree was immediately dried up. And when the disciples saw it, they wondered, saying, How immediately is the fig tree dried up? And Jesus answering said to them, Verily, I say to you, if ye have faith, and do not doubt, not only shall ye do what is done to this fig tree, but even if ye should say to this mountain, Be thou taken away, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall come to pass. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. And when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching, saying, By what authority doest thou these things? And who gave thee this authority? And Jesus answering said to them, I also will ask you one thing, which if ye tell me, I also will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, whence was it? Of heaven or of men? And they reasoned among themselves, saying, If we should say of heaven, he will say to us, Why then have ye not believed him? But if we should say of men, we fear the crowd, for all hold John for a prophet. And answering Jesus, they said, We do not know. He also said to them, Neither do I tell you by what authority I do these things. But what think ye? A man had 2 children, and coming to the first he said, Child, go to-day, work in my vineyard. And he answering said, I will not. But afterwards, repenting himself, he went. And coming to the second he said likewise. And he answering said, I go, sir, and went not. Which of the 2 did the will of the Father? They say to him, The first. Jesus says to them, Verily I say to you, that the tax gatherers and the harlots go into the kingdom of God before you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and ye believed him not. But the tax gatherers and the harlots believed him. But ye, when ye saw it, repented, not yourselves afterwards to believe him. Hear another parable. There was a householder who planted a vineyard, and made a fence round it, and dug a winepress in it, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went away out of the country. But when the time of fruit drew near, he sent his bondsmen to the husbandmen to receive his fruits. And the husbandmen took his bondsmen, and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Again he sent other bondsmen, more than the first, and they did to them in like manner. And at last he sent to them his son, saying, They will have respect for my son. But the husbandmen, seeing the son, said among themselves, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and possess his inheritance. And they took him, and cast him out of the vineyard, and slew him. When therefore the Lord of the vineyard comes, what shall he do to those husbandmen? They say to him, He will miserably destroy those evil men, and let out the vineyard to other husbandmen, who shall render him the fruits in their seasons. Jesus saith to them, Have ye never read in the scriptures, The stone which the builders rejected, that has become the head of the corner? This is of the Lord, and it is wonderful in our eyes. Therefore I say to you, that the kingdom of God shall be taken from you, and shall be given to a nation producing the fruits of it. And he that falls on this stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it shall grind him to powder. And the chief priests and the Pharisees, having heard his parable, knew that he spoke about them. And seeking to lay hold of him, they were afraid of the crowds, because they held him for a prophet. End of chapter 21. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 22 of the book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 22. And Jesus answering spoke to them again in parables, saying, The kingdom of the heavens has been made like to a king who made a wedding feast for his son, and sent his bondsmen to call the persons invited to the wedding feast, and they would not come. Again he sent other bondsmen, saying, Say to the persons invited, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatted beasts are killed, and all things ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they made light of it, and went one to his own land, and another to his commerce. And the rest, laying hold of his bondsmen, insulted and slew them. And when the king heard of it, he was wroth, and having sent his forces, destroyed those murderers, and burnt their city. Then he says to his bondsmen, The wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore into the thoroughfares of the highways, and as many as ye shall find, invite to the wedding feast. And those bondsmen went out into the highways, and brought together all as many as they found, both evil and good. And the wedding feast was furnished with guests. And the king, having gone in to see the guests, beheld there a man not clothed with a wedding garment. And he says to him, My friend, how camest thou in here not having on a wedding garment? But he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him feet and hands, and take him away. and cast him out into the outer darkness. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. For many are called ones, but few chosen ones. Then went the Pharisees and held a council how they might ensnare him in speaking. And they send out to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that thou art true and teachest the way of God in truth, and troublest thyself about no one, for thou regardest not men's person. Tell us therefore what thou thinkest. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? But Jesus, knowing their wickedness, said, Why do ye tempt me, hypocrites? Shew me the money of the tribute. And they presented to him a denarius. And he says to them, Whose is this image and superscription? They say to him, Caesar's. Then he says to them, Pay then the things of Caesar to Caesar, and the things of God to God. And when they heard him, they wondered, and left him, and went away. On that day came to him Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, and they demanded of him, saying, Teacher, Moses said, If any one die not having children, his brother shall marry his wife, and shall raise up seed to his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren. And the first, having married, died, and not having seed, left his wife to his brother. In like manner also the second and the third unto the 7th. And last of all, the woman also died. In the resurrection therefore, of which of the 7 shall she be wife? For all had her. And Jesus answering said to them, Ye err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? God is not God of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowds heard it, they were astonished at his doctrine. But the Pharisees, having heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, were gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, demanded, tempting him, and saying, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments the whole law and the prophets hang. But the Pharisees being gathered together, Jesus demanded of them, saying, What think ye concerning the Christ? Whose son is he? They say to him, David's. He saith to them, How then does David in spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit on my right hand until I put thine enemies under thy feet. If therefore David call him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor did anyone dare from that day to question him any more. End of chapter 22. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 23 of the book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 23. Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees have sat down in Moses' seat. All things, therefore, whatever they may tell you, do and keep. But do not after their works, for they say and do not, but bind burdens heavy and hard to bear, and lay them on the shoulders of men, but will not move them with their finger. And all their works they do to be seen of men. For they make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the chief place in feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and the salutations in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But ye, be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your instructor, the Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call not any one your father upon the earth, for one is your Father, he who is in the heavens. Neither be called instructors, for one is your instructor, the Christ. But the greatest of you shall be your servant. And whoever shall exalt himself shall be humbled, and whoever shall humble himself shall be exalted. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut up the kingdom of the heavens before men. For ye do not enter, nor do ye suffer those that are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass the sea and the dry land, to make one proselyte, and when he is become such, ye make him twofold more the son of Gehenna than yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, Whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing; but whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Fools and blind! For which is greater, the gold or the temple which sanctifies the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing; but whosoever shall swear by the gift that is upon it is a debtor. Fools and blind! For which is greater, the gift or the altar which sanctifies the gift? He therefore that swears by the altar swears by it, and by all things that are upon it. And he that swears by the temple swears by it and by him that dwells in it. And he that swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him that sits upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and ye have left aside the weightier matters of the law, judgment and mercy and faith. These ye ought to have done, and not have left those aside. Blind guides, who strain out the gnat, but drink down the camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye purge the outside of the cup and of the dish, but within are full of rapine and intemperance. Blind Pharisee, clean first the inside of the cup and of the dish, that their outside also may become clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like whited sepulchres, which appear beautiful outwardly, but within are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Thus also ye outwardly ye appear righteous to men, but within are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the just. And ye say, If we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. So that ye bear witness of yourselves that ye are the sons of those who slew the prophets. And ye, fill ye up the measure of your fathers. Serpents, offspring of vipers, how should ye escape the judgment of Gehenna? Therefore, behold, I send unto you prophets, and wise men, and scribes, and some of them ye will kill and crucify, and some of them ye will scourge in your synagogues, and will persecute from city to city, so that all righteous blood shed upon the earth should come upon you, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those that are sent unto her, how often would I have gathered thy children as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall in no wise see me henceforth until ye say, Blessed be he that comes in the name of the Lord. End of chapter 23. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 24 of the book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 24. And Jesus went forth and went away from the temple, and his disciples came to him to point out to him the buildings of the temple. And he answering said to them, Do ye not see all these things? Verily I say to you, not a stone shall be left here upon a stone which shall not be thrown down. And as he was sitting upon the Mount of Olives, his disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what is the sign of thy coming, and the completion of the age? And Jesus answering said to them, See that no one mislead you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they shall mislead many. But ye will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not disturbed. For all these things must take place. But it is not yet the end. For nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. But all these are the beginning of throes. Then shall they deliver you up to tribulation, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all the nations for my name's sake. And then will many be offended, and will deliver one another up, and hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise, and shall mislead many. And because lawlessness shall prevail, the love of the most shall grow cold. But he that has endured to the end, he shall be saved. And these glad tidings of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole habitable earth for a witness to all the nations, and then shall come the end. When therefore ye shall see the abomination of desolation, which is spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in what is a holy place, let him that reads understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let not him that is on the house come down to take the things out of his house. And let not him that is in the field turn back to take his garment. But woe to those that are with child, and those that give suck in those days. But pray that your flight may not be in winter time, nor on Sabbath. For then shall there be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall be. And if those days had not been shortened, no flesh had been saved. But on account of the elect those days shall be shortened. Then if any one say to you, Behold, here is the Christ, or here believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall give great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you beforehand. If therefore they say to you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the inner chambers, do not believe it. For as the lightning goes forth from the east and shines to the west, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man. For wherever the carcass is, there will be gathered the eagles. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the land lament, and they shall see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of trumpet, And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the one extremity of the heavens to the other extremity of them. But learn the parable from the fig tree. When already its branch becomes tender and produces leaves, ye know that the summer is near. Thus also ye, when ye see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Verily I say to you, this generation will not have passed away until all these things shall have taken place. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words do not at all pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of the heavens, but my Father alone. But as the days of Noah, so also shall be the coming of the Son of Man. For as they were in the days which were before the flood, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day on which Noah entered into the ark, and knew not till the flood came and took all away, thus also shall be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two shall be in the field, one is taken and one is left. Two women grinding at the mill, one is taken and one is left. Watch therefore, for ye know not in what hour your Lord comes. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what watch the thief was coming, he would have watched, and not have suffered his house to be dug through into. Wherefore ye also be ye ready, for in that hour that ye think not the Son of Man comes. Who then is that faithful and prudent bondsman, whom his Lord has set over his household, to give them food in season? Blessed is that bondsman, whom his Lord on coming shall find doing thus. Verily I say unto you, that he will set him over all his substance. But if that evil bondsman should say in his heart, My Lord delays to come, and begin to beat his fellow bondsmen, and eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that bondsman shall come in a day when he does not expect him, and in an hour he knows not of, and shall cut him in two, and appoint his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. End of chapter 24. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 25 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 25. Then shall the kingdom of the heavens be made like to 10 virgins, that, having taken their lamps, went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were prudent, and 5 foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and did not take oil with them. But the prudent took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But the bridegroom tarrying, they all grew heavy and slept. But in the middle of the night there was a cry, Behold, the bridegroom! Go forth to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the prudent, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the prudent answered, saying, We cannot, lest it might not suffice for us and for you. Go rather to those that sell, and buy for yourselves. But as they went away to buy, the bridegroom came, and the ones that were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. Afterwards come also the rest of the virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answering said, Verily I say unto you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for ye do not know the day nor the hour. For it is as if a man going away out of a country called his own bondsmen, and delivered to them his substance. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his particular ability, and immediately went away out of the country. And he that had received 5 talents went and trafficked with them, and made 5 other talents. In like manner also he that had received the 2, he also gained 2 others. But he that had received the one went and dug in the earth, and hid the money of his lord. And after a long time the lord of those bondsmen comes and reckons with them. And he that had received the 5 talents came to him, and brought 5 other talents, saying, My lord, thou deliveredst me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained 5 other talents besides them. His lord said to him, Well, good and faithful bondsman, thou wast faithful over a few things, I will set thee over many things. Enter into the joy of thy lord. And he that had received 2 talents came to him, and said, My lord, thou deliveredst me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents besides them. His lord said to him, Well, good and faithful bondsman, thou wast faithful over a few things, I will set thee over many things. Enter into the joy of thy lord. And he that had received the 1 talent, coming to him, also said, My lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hadst not sowed, and gathering from where thou hadst not scattered. And being afraid, I went away and hid thy talent in the earth. Behold, thou hast that is thine. And his lord answering said to him, Wicked and slothful bondsman, thou knewest that I reap where I had not sowed, and gather from where I had not scattered. Thou oughtest then to have put my money to the money changers, and when I came, I should have got what is mine with interest. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it to him that has 10 talents. For to every one that has shall be given, and he shall be in abundance. But from him that has not, that even which he has shall be taken from him. And cast out the useless bondsman into the outer darkness. There shall be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then shall he sit upon his throne of glory, and all the nations shall be gathered before him. And he shall separate them from one another, as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, and the goats on his left. Then shall the king say to those on his right hand, Come, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the world's foundation. For I hungered, and ye gave me to eat. I thirsted, and ye gave me to drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was ill, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came to me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungering, and nourished thee, or thirsting, and gave thee to drink? And when saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? And when saw we thee ill or in prison, and came to thee? And the king answering shall say to them, Verily I say to you, inasmuch as ye have done it to one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it to me. Then shall he say also to those on the left, Go from me, cursed, into eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I hungered, and ye gave me not to eat. And I thirsted, and ye gave me not to drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye did not clothe me. Ill and in prison, and ye did not visit me. Then shall they also answer, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungering, or thirsting, or a stranger, or naked, or ill, or in prison, and have not ministered to thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say to you, inasmuch as ye have not done it to one of these least, neither have ye done it to me. And these shall go away into eternal punishment, and the righteous into life eternal. End of chapter 25. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 26 of the Book of Matthew. Translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 26. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days the Passover takes place, and the Son of Man is delivered up to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people were gathered together to the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and took counsel together in order that they might seize Jesus by subtlety and kill him. But they said, Not in the feast, that there be not a tumult among the people. But Jesus being in Bethany, in Simon the leper's house, a woman, having an alabaster flask of very precious ointment, came to him and poured it out upon his head as he lay at table. But the disciples, seeing it, became indignant, saying, To what end was this waste? For this might have been sold for much, and been given to the poor. But Jesus, knowing it, said to them, Why do ye trouble the woman? For she hath wrought a good work towards me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in pouring out this ointment on my body, she has done it for my burying. Verily I say to you, wheresoever these glad tidings shall be preached in the whole world, that also which she has done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. Then one of the 12, he who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, What are ye willing to give me? And I will deliver him up to you. And they appointed to him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought a good opportunity, that he might deliver him up. Now on the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city unto such a one, and say to him, The teacher says, My time is near. I will keep the Passover in thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. And when the evening was come, he lay down at table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, Verily I say to you, that one of you shall deliver me up. And being exceedingly grieved, they began to say to him, each of them, Is it I, Lord? But he answering said, He that dips his hand with me in the dish, he it is who shall deliver me up. The Son of Man goes indeed according as it is written concerning him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is delivered up. It were good for him if that man had not been born. And Judas, who delivered him up, answering said, Is it I, Rabbi? He saith to them, Thou hast said. And as they were eating, Jesus, having taken the bread and blessed, broke it and gave it to the disciples, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And having taken the cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood, that of the new covenant, that shed for many for remission of sins. But I say to you, that I will not at all drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in the kingdom of my Father. And having sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then saith Jesus to them, All ye shall be offended in me during this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after that I shall be risen. I will go before you to Galilee. And Peter answering said to him, If all shall be offended in thee, I will never be offended. Jesus said to him, Verily I say to thee, that during this night, before the cock shall crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter says to him, If I should needs die with thee, I will in no wise deny thee. Likewise said all his disciples also. Then Jesus comes with them to a place called Gethsemane, and says to the disciples, Sit here until I go away and pray yonder. And taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and deeply depressed. Then he saith to them, My soul is very sorrowful, even unto death. Remain here and watch with me. And going forward a little, he fell upon his face, praying and saying, My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. But not as I will, but as thou. And he comes to the disciples and finds them sleeping, and says to Peter, Thus ye have not been able to watch 1 hour with me? Watch and pray that ye may not enter into temptation. The spirit is ready, but the flesh is weak. Again going away a second time, he prayed, saying, My Father, if this cannot pass from me, unless I drink it, thy will be done. And coming, he found them again sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And leaving them, going away, again he prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he comes to his disciples and says to them, Sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, the hour has drawn nigh, and the Son of Man is delivered up into the hands of sinners. Rise up, let us go. Behold, he that delivers me up has drawn nigh. And while he was yet speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great crowd with swords and sticks from the chief priests and elders of the people. And he that delivered him up had given to them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, he it is, seize him. And immediately coming up to Jesus, he said, Hail, Rabbi, and covered him with kisses. But Jesus said to him, My friend, for what purpose art thou come? Then coming up, they laid hands upon Jesus and seized him. And behold, one of those with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword, and smiting the bondsman of the high priest, took off his ear. Then saith Jesus to him, Return thy sword to its place, for all who take the sword shall perish by the sword. Or thinkest thou that I cannot now call upon my Father, and he will furnish me more than 12 legions of angels? How then should the scriptures be fulfilled, that thus it must be? In that hour Jesus said to the crowds, Are ye come out as against a robber with swords and sticks to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye did not seize me. But all this is come to pass, that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. But they that had seized Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. And Peter followed him at a distance, even to the palace of the high priest, and entering in sat with the officers to see the end. And the high priest and the elders and the whole council sought false witness against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. And they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. But at the last 2 false witnesses came forward and said, He said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and in 3 days build it. And the high priest, standing up, said to him, Answerest thou nothing? What do these witness against thee? But Jesus was silent. And the high priest answering said to him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us if thou art the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus says to him, Thou hast said. Moreover, I say to you, from henceforth ye shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, and coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He has blasphemed. What need have we any more of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard the blasphemy. What think ye? And they answering said, he is liable to the penalty of death. Then they spit in his face and buffeted him, and some struck him with the palms of their hand, saying, Prophesy to us, Christ, who is it who struck thee? But Peter sat without in the palace court, and a maid came to him, saying, And thou hast been with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied before all, saying, I do not know what thou sayest. And when he had gone out into the entrance, another saw him, and says to those there, This man also was with Jesus the Nazarene. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a little, those who stood there, coming to him, said to Peter, Truly thou too art of them, for also thy speech makes thee manifest. Then he began to curse and to swear, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus, who had said to him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went outside and wept bitterly. End of chapter 26. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 27 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 27. And when it was morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. And having bound him, they led him away and delivered him up to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, who delivered him up, seeing that he had been condemned, filled with remorse, returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned in having delivered up guiltless blood. But they said, What is that to us? See thou to that. And having cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, he left the place and went away and hung himself. And the chief priests took the pieces of silver and said, It is not lawful to cast them into the Corban, since it is the price of blood. And having taken counsel, they bought with them the field of the potter for a burying ground for strangers. Wherefore that field has been called Blood field unto this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, And I took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was set a price on, whom they who were of the sons of Israel had set a price on, and gave them for the field of the potter, according as the Lord commanded me. But Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor questioned him, saying, Art thou the King of the Jews? And Jesus said to him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and the elders, he answered nothing. Then says Pilate to him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him not so much as one word, so that the governor wondered exceedingly. But at the feast the governor was accustomed to release one prisoner to the crowd, whom they would. And he had then a notable prisoner named Barabbas. They therefore being gathered together, Pilate said to them, Whom will ye that I release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that they had delivered him up through envy. But as he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered today many things in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds that they should beg for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. And the governor answering said to them, Which of the two will ye that I release unto you? But they said, Barabbas. Pilate says to them, What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all say, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, What evil then has he done? But they cried more than ever, saying, Let him be crucified. And Pilate, seeing that it availed nothing, but that rather a tumult was arising, having taken water, washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am guiltless of the blood of this righteous one. See ye to it. And all the people answering said, His blood be on us and on our children. Then he released to them Barabbas. But Jesus, having scourged him, he delivered up that he might be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor, having taken Jesus with them to the praetorium, gathered against him the whole band, and having taken off his garment, put on him a scarlet cloak, and having woven a crown out of thorns, put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And bowing the knee before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And having spit upon him, they took the reed and beat him on his head. And when they had mocked him, they took the cloak off him, and put his own clothes on him, and led him away to crucify. And as they went forth, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they forced to go with him, that he might bear his cross. And having come to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they gave to him to drink vinegar mingled with gall. And having tasted it, he would not drink. And having crucified him, they parted his clothes amongst themselves, casting lots. And sitting down, they kept guard over him there. And they set up over his head his accusation, written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then are crucified with him 2 robbers, one on the right hand and one on the left. But the passers-by reviled him, shaking their heads and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou art Son of God, descend from the cross. And in like manner the chief priests also, mocking, with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be King of Israel, let him descend now from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted upon God. Let him save him now if he will have him. For he said, I am Son of God. And the robbers who had been crucified with him cast the same reproaches on him. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. But about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? That is, my God, why hast thou abandoned me? And some of those who stood there, when they heard it, said, This man calls for Elias. And immediately one of them, running and getting a sponge, having filled it with vinegar and fixed it on a reed, gave him to drink. But the rest said, Let be, let us see if Elias comes to save him. And Jesus, having again cried with a loud voice, gave up the ghost. And lo, the veil of the temple was rent in 2 from the top to the bottom, and the earth was shaken, and the rocks were rent, and the tombs were opened. And many bodies of the saints, fallen asleep, arose, and going out of the tombs after his arising, entered into the holy city, and appeared unto many. But the centurion and they who were with him on guard over Jesus, seeing the earthquake and the things that took place, feared greatly, saying, Of a truth this man was Son of God. And there was there many women beholding from afar off, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom was Mary of Magdala, and Mary the mother of James and Joses, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. Now when even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea, his name Joseph, who also himself was a disciple to Jesus. He, going to Pilate, begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given up, and Joseph, having got the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and deposited it in his new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. And having rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre, went away. But Mary of Magdala was there, and the other Mary, sitting opposite the sepulchre. Now on the morrow, which is after the preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees came together to Pilate, saying, Sir, we have called to mind that misleader said when he was still alive, After 3 days I arise. Command therefore that the tomb be secured until the 3rd day, lest his disciples should come and steal him away, and say to the people, He is arisen from the dead, and the last error shall be worse than the first. And Pilate said to them, Ye have a watch. Go, secure it as well as ye know how. And they went and secured the tomb, having sealed the stone with the watch besides. End of chapter 27. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 28 of the Book of Matthew, translated by John Nelson Darby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. Chapter 28. But late on Sabbath, as it was the dusk of the next day after Sabbath, came Mary of Magdala and the other Mary to look at the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descending out of heaven came and rolled away the stone, and sat upon it. And his look was as lightning, and his clothing white as snow. And for fear of him the guards trembled and became as dead men. And the angel, answering, said to the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus the crucified one. He is not here, for he is arisen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and say to his disciples that he is arisen from the dead. And behold, he goes before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Behold, I have told you. And going out quickly from the sepulchre, with fear and great joy, they ran to bring his disciples word. And as they went to bring his disciples word, behold, also Jesus met them, saying, Hail! And they, coming up, took him by the feet and did him homage. Then Jesus says to them, Fear not, go, bring word to my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there they shall see me. And as they went, behold, some of the watch went into the city, and brought word to the chief priests of all that had taken place. And having assembled with the elders, and having taken counsel, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers, saying, Say that his disciples, coming by night, stole him while we were sleeping. And if this should come to the hearing of the governor, we will persuade him and save you from all anxiety. And they took the money and did as they had been taught. And this report is current among the Jews until this day. But the 11 disciples went into Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they did homage to him. But some doubted. And Jesus, coming up, spoke to them, saying, All power has been given me in heaven and upon earth. Go therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them to the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have enjoined you. And behold, I am with you all the days until the completion of the age. End of chapter 28. Recording by Aaron Holtstrand. End of the Book of Matthew from the Darby Bible, translated by John Nelson Darby.